Welcome back, guys. Hello. Another day, another video. I picked up this one today because I found the whole concept of a sociopath to be quite interesting, right? I think it's a word that gets thrown around a lot these days, maybe not very accurately, but I think ultimately you'll always know if someone is a true sociopath because they don't come along very often. But this one is, have you ever been romantically involved with a sociopath, ASPD diagnosed? If so, is it actually a traumatizing experience? What is it like? I had a friend who married one. He changed 100% the night they got married. He went from a nice normal guy to super cold. He moved her out of state, got her pregnant, and had 2 other families on the side. She finally got out of it. F***ed her up for a long time. That's pretty creepy if they change on the actual night of the wedding. It's like they've been waiting for that one day to just like flip the switch. A friend of mine dated a diagnosed sociopath, and she said it was frustrating because there wasn't any logic behind her attraction to him. She realized he was not good to her, but she couldn't stop going back to him. She described him as both the best and worst thing in her life when she was with him. I totally know what your I totally know where your friend is coming from. After reading this thread, I am very suspicious that my ex may really be a sociopath. He claimed he had BPD, I'm guessing that's bipolar disorder, then admitted he also had paranoid personality disorder, but I think it was just another lie and he uses BPD as a disguise. It was extremely traumatic when it was all said and done, but part of getting over him was accepting that I do truly love him. He just can't be in my life because he is so bad too, and for me. Okay, straight off the bat, the edit that they put at the top of their post. I'm already intrigued as to what this story is going to be about. Edit, I am not, nor have I ever been in a romantic relationship with my brother. I misread the post. My twin brother. Things happened when we were little. I would have linked up then, but I most certainly do now. As twins, we obviously got 2 of everything. He'd destroy his, take mine, and then say I destroyed mine to get his thing because it was better somehow. He hugged the family cat so hard it panted when he let go, every time. Once he mysteriously found the cat with a broken leg and decided not to tell my mom. He was just constantly trying to cause chaos, pitting everyone in the house against each other. He would start arguments, seemingly for the fun of it, and he'd always find a way to slip into the background while we screamed at each other. His worst offence was when he cut himself on his leg with a razor and told my mom dad had made him do it. My parents nearly got divorced because of him, then they did for other reasons. He told me a while later he lied about it all. He liked doing that, f***ing things up and only telling me. I was branded as a liar for most of my childhood, and no one really trusted anything I said because of him. So he took all the more delight in confiding in me because he knew what it would do. He lives with my dad now, and I haven't spoken to him in 4 years, but I have a fun story if people ask who the evil twin is, I guess. Yeah. That sounds like a pretty evil twin. Or, and I'm just putting it out there, what if this is the evil twin? What if this is like an evil twin thing to do? To go onto Reddit and try and make the good twin seem like the bad one? It was traumatizing. I felt like I was losing my mind from the casual cruelty and gaslighting. It took forever for me to trust obvious truths again, since he was skilled at maliciously twisting them. 0.03 out of 10 would not recommend. Been there, the trauma is brutal. I had intense therapy and I'm still healing. Maybe I always will be. Who knows, but I do empathise deeply with you. Yes, he admitted his diagnosis proudly, at least to me. He was very troubled. I was only with him 8 months, but those 8 months were the worst of my life. He seemed happy to discover I didn't have stable housing, asked if I'd like to move in. I said no, so he started causing problems with the people I was crashing with. I didn't realise this till later that he was the one that got me kicked out. What? Once I had no choice but to stay with him, hotels or the streets. He laughed and said he's breaking his lease. Maybe if I did what he said faster, I'd be able to stay, but that I could sleep in his basement. He would do weird like that, making me wait outside of bars. His job, his friends' houses was a big thing he'd make me do, especially if the weather was poor. When he drank, it was even worse. I'd sleep in the bathroom if he was on liquor to get away from him. If I didn't, he'd strangle me when he blacked out. He's wanted for killing a girl in another country now. No clue where he is, but I'll randomly get contacted by him. It's been years, but he still contacts me. All he says is, I love you. Once he got into my email and changed my name to I love you, I know 100% it's him. I've seen and been through a lot of up shit in my life. It is what it is. But that man takes the cake for the most awful experience in my entire life. There are people I meet or see on TV that have the same exact look in their eyes or voice pattern as him, despite looking nothing like him. I avoid those people like the plague, or grande to turn a TV off. It's like they over-enunciate certain points of words yet have a monotone voice. The letter T especially, like they're parroting a human, not actually one. One thing he always did was watch YouTube videos and practice in the mirror on how to look happy, sad or concerned. It was insane. Everyone thought he was the greatest guy on earth. His mother tried to warn me that he'd kill me. Up. Well, I am glad they got out of that. That sounds actually insane. Yes, I dated a narcissistic sociopath. It was terrible and left permanent scars. It took time, but I realised now that everything was a lie. Well, his name was correct, but what he thought, felt, did, his plans and his history, I know none of those things. He is a complete stranger and I never knew him at all. I'm doing fine now, although once in a while I stop and shake my head because I feel so goddamn dumb. My ex is a walking illusion. He was whatever he needed to be at the moment to reel in his victim. Even after I filed for divorce, it wasn't until I heard the pathological lies that he told his new girlfriend that I realised it. There wasn't any diagnosis, but I was casually with a guy who was sending up some pretty serious red flags, and it suddenly clicked that he was a sociopath. No empathy, would absolutely lie to people's faces, huge plans that went nowhere. Nothing was ever his fault. Rules were for other people. When I drifted away from him or hung out with someone else, he would start putting lots of effort in again, and of course there was the cheating, lying, etc, etc. Oh, sorry about the block of text in this one, guys, but here we go. Luckily for me, I had recognized it early, and I realized I needed to be careful about how I went about detaching myself from him. So here is what I did, and hopefully it can help someone. I never actually broke things off with him or told him we were done. Obviously this only works if you're casual, but maybe some variation could work. So an example would be that when he asked me for something, I knew he wanted it right then. So whenever he contacted me to ask for something, I'd say, sure, that sounds great. I get off work in 3 hours and I'll come right over with whatever he wanted. After that, he'd say no, never mind. I'd act like I was disappointed about it, so he thought he had successfully punished me. He thought I was still on the hook. I did this over and over until he stopped thinking of me as someone he could get things from. It took a while and a lot of acting upset when he would berate me or snap at me. I specifically remember sitting in his room while he yelled at me about where I put my purse down, thinking, okay, remember V, this is very upsetting, look sad. But it did work without him going to any extremes, and we lived in the same building, so it was hard to just avoid him altogether. Obviously your mileage may vary. Great, another wall text. Alright, here we go. Yup. By far the hardest experience of my life. Was with him for nearly a year, 6 years ago. Still working on recovery today. Tried to separate me from my friends and family, made me feel responsible for him emotionally and financially. One of the first things he did after about a week of dating was convince me to pay for his $400 phone bill so he could have his phone switched back on and stay in contact with me. That was only the beginning. I lost all self-worth. By the end, I felt completely crazy. It's insane what prolonged exposure to gaslighting will do to a person. I ended up dropping out of uni because he would sabotage me at every turn. I'll never forget when I was working on a major project and he would keep walking past me, calling me a f***ing bitch and spitting on my piece. I was the only one working, and supporting 2 people on a hospitality wage is hard enough, then add in about $300 a week weed addiction. If he didn't have it, he would lose his throw things, smash things, etc. It was safer for me to keep him high, and in turn I smoked a ton to escape the reality of the situation. I finally got out when I found that he had prostitutes in the house and in my bed. I finally opened up to my friends what had been happening, and they got me out of there. It was up, but I tried to see it in a positive light. I've learnt and gained massive self-esteem since this happened, and I find I can easily detect sociopathic and narcissistic personalities not people now. I still get super triggered by things, especially males yelling or showing aggression. I still get annoyed at myself for breaking down in those situations, but each time it happens, I feel myself heal just that little bit. I see it as a wound reopening, but then the scar tissue builds up, making me stronger each time. Sorry for such a long rant. Seeing this question hit me and feels good. Seeing this question hit me and it feels good to get a bit of the stuff off my chest. I don't imagine that it's common for sociopaths to get diagnosed as such. They tend to live in denial. They don't think they have issues worth exploring. Yes, I dated one and it was the most traumatic experience of my life. By the time it was over, multiple years, I had no idea who he was. That's what it's like. Yeah, they resist getting help or lie their way through a diagnosis. Not even medication and therapy is always effective because the nature of their disorder precludes it from working. Almost a Psychopath is a good beginning book for anyone who thinks they are in a relationship with someone who has psychopathic, sociopathic, narcissistic traits, even if that person doesn't have an official diagnosis or is functional enough to get by. It certainly opened my eyes to my abusive marriage and abusive adopted mom. Well, those were obviously really intense. I don't know if they sort of hit home for any of you guys. Perhaps that might ring some alarm bells. But I would also say that, like, you've got to think really hard about this because everyone tends to have some traits that could be diagnosed as this. But I guess it's when it builds up to an overwhelming level that you can probably look at someone and say, yeah, that they are almost definitely a sociopath. But yeah, it's difficult because like this last post said, those sorts of people will rarely end up speaking to someone who would diagnose them, right? So where does it end? Let me know your thoughts. Let me know how you're liking the camera format, if you're still cool with all that. I saw some of you guys enjoyed it. Subscribe if you're new here, and I'll see you all soon. Thank you.